I definitely have a sense of being slightly more on edge.
Join the conversation.
Mornings across Scotland.
Kay Gillespie left a corporate job to become a full-time travel blogger.
Seeing Glencoe for the first time, it just took my breath away.
Joining us on stage now, impressionist John Culshaw.
I was walking along, somebody asked me to do Ozzy Osbourne on the way here, you know, it's like that.
Mornings, weekdays from 9 on BBC Radio Scotland.
Now let's have a look to see what the forecast has for the rest of the weekend. I feel like it's a weekend already.
Yeah, I know. Well, for you, maybe I haven't finished till 11 o'clock today. Thanks very much, Fiona. Yeah, we've had that low pressure that's just been hanging around recently, and it will eventually clear away into the North Sea tomorrow. But in the meantime, it's throwing out a lot of showers. Now, the showers will start to ease this evening. However, we have a couple of net office warnings in force for thunderstorms. Now, the first one's for North East Scotland. That's valid until 8 o'clock tonight. But a further warning, a yellow thunderstorm warning for Fife, the Lothians and the Borders is valid until 9 a.m. tomorrow. Because as we head through the evening, those heavy showers we've been seeing will become gradually confined really to Fife, the Lothians and the Borders as we head through tonight. Across northern Scotland, though, we'll see a band of rain moving into the Northern Isles and extending into northern Scotland during the early hours. Clear spells developing elsewhere. Still quite brisk winds for the north and the west coast. And temperature-wise, we're looking at lows of around about 10 to 12 Celsius. Lower under clearer skies to parts of the Highlands and into the Grampian area. Now, tomorrow morning, we'll still have that rain across northern Scotland, and those showers initially across the southeast will be heavy and thundery. Now, sunny spells developing elsewhere, but as we head into the afternoon, very much like today, cloud will start to build and we'll see showers developing. Now, not as heavy as the showers we've seen today, and not as many, in fact, tend to be drier towards southwest Scotland, into the Kintyre area, and also into the southwest as well.
Get the latest news on your smart speaker whenever you want. Just say, play BBC News for Scotland.
Hello, this is Drive Time with me, Fiona Stalker. It's 5:36 now. If you're just tuning in, Ofgem announced a new price cap today. That means the annual energy bill for a typical household will fall to £1,923 in October. It's said to cause huge financial strain on many, many households, including Shona Park and her 4 children. Shona volunteers at the Star Project. It's a community project in Foodbank in Paisley. She tells me her family are bracing themselves for a bleak winter.
Coming into the winter, I'm going to be using more electricity because the lights are going to be going on for longer. So, I don't know, it's a worrying thing. We do get the government handout of the £300, but it depends on what benefit or what criteria you're in. Last year I got that at the very, very last week. It's going to be the same as last year. I thought this year we were going to be a wee bit better. I've actually stopped saving up for my Christmas now. I've basically told the kids they will get what they can afford now. I'm no longer getting help from the council with school meals. I used to. That's daunting. I'm £12 a day now to feed my kids in school. That £12 could go to my electricity or my gas bills. So the coming months, it's going to be a case of, again, looking at the pennies. I'm going to be feeding the kids before I feed my energy bills. Yeah, I'm okay at the moment because I'm a diabeter. I'm not going to get my electricity or my gas cut off unless somebody comes knocking the door, which is worrying because every time I hear a knock on the door, I do worry. But it's the ones that have got the payment meter that haven't got that benefit. They're going to get cut off no matter what.
And Shona, what's the impact on you? Because I know you and I have spoken before, and you for a few days didn't feed yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I still use the staff project with the pantry, and unfortunately, I mean, I've got a job now, but it's only at the weekends, and I did overtime just during Tuesday, so I missed the pantry kind of stock up day, and I came in the following day, and everybody was in. They've bought everything as a sellout. There's nothing, so I'm now having to go today to try and do a food shop. I mean, people think that's dead easy. But for me, I'm still actually struggling, so I'm using the kind of cheaper option to feed. So at the moment, I'm looking at my cupboard and saying, like, it's back like COVID. See what you've got in the back of your cupboard to feed you because you can't go out. That's my situation now. I'm using more tins. I'm coming up with different kind of recipes that the kids actually turn their nose up at. But it's a case of I've not got the money because come Christmas time, we're going to have the gas on. We haven't got the money to pay, so I'm actually having to save up now for the gas rather than save up for Christmas.
What's winter going to look like for you and your family?
Cold, bleak. Windows totally shut, so I'm going to have a damp house again. Been in contact with the support out here the now Leap, which have been very, very helpful, but the tips that they've gave me aren't working in my house situation. So I've got to keep my windows open 24/7 to keep the condensation away. At Christmas time, you're not going to be able to do that because you'll be like icicles, your fingers will be moving.
Do you worry about your health?
Yes, I'll not want to actually go out the door. I mean, last year my health kind of deteriorated at January time. Kept getting chest infections, and now I'm stuck with asthma through it. But it's to do with me not being able to heat my house as much as I would like. So the dampness crept in. I'm hearing people now that they're asking out for the energy vouchers in the summer months when they're needed the winter. So it just shows you there is people out there struggling all year round.
That's Shona Park there. I spoke to her a wee bit earlier this afternoon. Shona volunteers at the Star Project in Paisley. Well, asked about families being concerned they'll again struggle to pay their bills this winter, Rishi Sunak said the UK government is working night and day to ensure the money in people's pockets goes further. Let's bring in Francis Curran, who's part of Power to the People, a campaign group fighting rising energy costs. Francis, good to speak to you. What do you think of what's been happening today? Is enough being done?
Just listening to Shona's story there and the idea that her kid's Christmas is going to be affected, and not only that, how warm her house is going to be then, it just makes your blood boil. The big question here is, why are we living like this? I mean, is there enough done today? The decrease in energy prices is $2.90 a week. It wouldn't even get you a return on a first bus in Glasgow. And yet, Ofgem have just acted to maximise the profits of the big six energy companies.
Francis,
why did they get away with that? You know, we need to see a huge protest about this.
Francis, look, you were listening to Shona there. What do you make of her story, and what stories are you hearing?
Shona's story is all too common. I mean, people who are working across the board, never mind those who are actually trying to survive the benefits, are going to have to turn the heating off this winter. And it was the same last winter. And the debt is increasing massively, we know from our campaign. And the big issue here is the government are going to have to act. The Ofgem are representing those who are the wealthiest in society. So Ofgem set the price of energy. It used to be every 6 months, now it's every 3 months. The world gas prices came down 72% last year. So why have our bills not decreased by 70% in that time?
How do you think this winter will compare to last winter? Because many people had a really, really challenging time last winter.
Well, last winter what happened is the government, due to campaigns like ours, ended up putting money in to keep energy prices lower, but they're still really high. But every single bill last year was given a subsidy of £400 from the government, which went straight in the profits of the companies. This year, the government have removed that subsidy and that cap, and so people are going to find it even more difficult this year in order to pay their energy bills. And the bottom line here is the energy companies need to be forced to decrease the price of energy and take the hit in their profits. And the irony here is the big six are not even owned in this country. I mean, EDF is owned by the French government, so they're publicly owned, and we've got the highest electricity prices in Europe. So what's going on here? So those profits are going into the coffers of the French government, while people in Scotland can't be turning their gas fire on.
So what can people do then, Francis?
Well, I think we need to, they can punish the government, but we have to organise a campaign. And what happened last year is the level of the campaign, not just their campaign, but lots of campaigns, brought the pressure to bear on the government, on the Sunak government, and they ended up putting in a price cap. And I think we need to take protests to the streets, take protests to the politicians, particularly Tory politicians, and say to them, if you do not act now, by the way, you are well going to be punished. Don't be counting in that seat.
Do you think people are going to have to switch off gas and electricity, switch off heating this winter?
I think they've already done it. That happened last year and it'll happen again. I mean, bills are a bit smaller at the moment because most people like me have turned off my gas central heating. But that'll be, especially in Scotland, you'll turn on that heating a lot sooner than you would do if you were in the southeast of England, so because of our climate. So I think people are going to be in that situation. And the other campaign that the people have taken up through the courts and elsewhere is that we want prepayment meters, forced prepayment meters banned. The idea in this day and age that anybody's cut off, and we've been in contact with the courts about this, we want guidelines that say under these you cannot force a prepayment meter, and the courts will act on the side of the ordinary people and not on behalf of the big energy companies. It's really important the courts in Scotland are actually clear about that.
Francis, thanks for being with us tonight. Francis Curran there, part of Power to the People, a campaign group fighting rising energy costs. Now, the director of the British Museum is stepping down over the way the institution handled a series of thefts. A staff member suspected of stolen, damaged or destroyed more than 1,000 museum items over several years. Here's this resignation statement read by one of our producers.
Over the last few days, I've been reviewing in detail the events around the thefts from the British Museum and the investigation into them. It is evident that the British Museum did not respond as comprehensively as it should have done in response to the warnings in 2021 and to the problem that is now fully emerged. The responsibility for that failure must ultimately rest with the director. I also misjudged the remarks that I made earlier this week about Dr. Gridell. I wish to express my sincere regret and withdraw those remarks. I've offered my resignation to the chairman of the trustees and will step down as soon as the board have established an interim leadership arrangement. This will remain in place until a new director is chosen. The situation facing the museum is of utmost seriousness. I sincerely believe that it will come through this moment and emerge stronger, but sadly I have come to the conclusion that my presence is proving a distraction. That is the last thing that I would want. Over the last 7 years, I've been privileged to work with some of the most talented and dedicated public servants. The British Museum is an amazing institution, and it has been the honour of my life to lead it.
That was a Radio 4 producer voicing that up, much better spoken than my team. Actually, I didn't write that, my producer wrote that himself, so there you go. Our correspondent, Liso Mazimba, joins me now. Liso, it's an incredible case. Let's take a step back, if you would, and explain how we got here.
Well, this all began last week when the British Museum revealed that a number of its treasures were reported as missing, stolen or damaged, and allegations also emerged that some of those valuable missing items had been offered for sale on eBay. Now, the BBC's seen correspondence between the museum and art dealer Whiteinch Glasgow, who'd alerted them to the situation back in 2021. Now, he was also concerned as time went on that his warnings weren't being taken seriously enough. In a statement early this week, Hartwig Fisher said a full audit had begun in 2022, but he also said Dr. Goodell had only raised concerns about a small number of items, and that the museum believed he had many more items in his possession, and that it was frustrating that was not revealed to them, as it would have aided its investigation. Dr. Goodell refuted that, and the emails he showed the BBC seem to support his account. And as we've just been hearing, the museum's director has now withdrawn the remarks he made about Dr. Goodell, describing them as misjudged. So, two big areas of concern for the British Museum here. A, how could treasures go missing in the first place? And B, how well has the museum dealt with the situation once alerted to it? The first situation is being dealt with by the police in an independent investigation, so understandably the museum are very reticent to say anything impinging directly on that. But about the second thing, how did they deal with the situation once they were actually alerted to it? The answer to that seems to be not well enough, and that also, by his own words, is one of the reasons Hartwig Fisher is leaving earlier than he'd planned. He was already planned to be stepping down in 2024, but now it looks like that's being brought forward to a matter of days until they can get an interim director in place.
What's likely to happen next over the next few days, weeks, Lisa?
Well, the two big things, of course, are the independent investigation and a police investigation. We know that a man has been questioned by police, by the Metropolitan Police here in London about that. So it's waiting to see if there are any developments on the criminal investigation side. And we don't know for certain, but I would imagine the museum's independent investigation, certainly into how the treasures went missing, we won't see that until criminal procedures have been concluded. We may well see some kind of explanation from the museum in the next few days and weeks as to why they didn't handle the situation as well as they could have, the actual internal procedures once those thefts had actually taken place.
Lisa Mazimba there, bringing us up to date. Thank you for that. Now, after us at 6 o'clock, Stotty takes to his decks and tickles our turntables. Normally I have a little peek at what you've got on your show, but I don't, so this is going to be a huge surprise. What's happening?
Well, we have got a nice mixed bag between 6 and 8 tonight. I bet the news, I don't know if you've heard it yet, about Bernie Marsden, the songwriter and guitarist with Whiteinch, just came out literally about half an hour ago that he had sadly passed away, so I've not got time to get Whiteinch into the show this week, but I will do next week. But we have got a fabulous show lined up for you. Neville Staple from the Specials and Fun Boy 3 is going to choose one of his favourite records. We'll count down the top 10 albums for this week in 1981, and it actually, it's quite relevant to you, Fiona.
Oh.
It's quite a relevant song that I think will make you smile.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, I'm intrigued now.
We'll say happy birthday, and we'll mark the anniversaries of Michael Jackson and Jean-Michel Jarre. I've got new music from the Gabriels, Hi-Fi Sean with David McCallum and The View. And actually, in a bit of a first for the Vinyl Collective, we've responded to quite a few requests that came in during the show last week and turned them around within a week.
Oh my goodness, yes!
I tell you. And I'm going to start with a charity shop find that cost me about 18 quid, but was worth it.
I got a Tina Turner album in a charity shop a couple of days ago for 4 quid.
See, that's good.
That's brilliant.
You've got to be sensible. Some of them get a wee bit cheeky, I find, with the pricing. However, this one, it's kind of fair for what you would buy online, so I didn't have to splash it. I wasn't expecting to spend that in a second-hand charity shop. However, it's worth it, and it's so good. It's opening the show.
I can't wait. Okay, banging at 6 o'clock from Stotty. Looking forward to that. Now, Gully is here with the sport.
Thanks, Fiona. The mouth-watering and the money-rich English Premier League is back tonight. A club who have spent £1 million since their new owner took charge last year. Chelsea welcome newly promoted Luton, Instant David and Goliath of spending power. On the line now, Luton YouTuber Tyler from T-Boys TV. Tyler, thanks for joining me.
Hello, good to be on here.
So Tyler, firstly, just how exactly does a club like Luton compete against big spending Chelsea?
We just do what we've been doing for the last previous years. We show what we're capable of. We get heavily underestimated, and I think it helps us. Obviously going into this game, Chelsea have got a lot of pressure on them. Obviously they haven't won a game yet. Obviously all the money they've spent so far, it's not really come into clutch. So just do what we know we're good at, and do what we know we're definitely capable of.
And Luton, they've only played one game at home. It was due to a pending stadium upgrade. As a Luton fan, how has it felt so far joining the richest league in the world?
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. You know, the exposure it brings. You know, I always knew it would be a matter of time before we were in the Premier League. You know, just because of the progression we was making. You know, the steps. I didn't expect it to be as quick as it has. You know, I thought it'd maybe be a few more years, but to be here now is absolutely phenomenal. You know, the exposure it brings, obviously, you know, for my YouTube channel is a massive bonus as well. So it's just brilliant, really.
And is this the game Luton would be expected to lose, with all the attention on teams maybe who might be fighting it out near the bottom half of the table?
Yes, you know, I think a large part of that goes down to, you know, what I just said in the fact with how much Chelsea has spent. You know, it's a home game for them, you know, and ideally they would be, you know, the favourites. And yet for us it's more, you know, if we are to stay up this season, I think it comes down to our home form, you know, massively similar to how it was for Nottingham Forest last year, really. So.
And as you mentioned, Tyler, Chelsea have yet to win this season under their new manager, so is there a chance Luton could pull off the mother of all shocks tonight?
Definitely, you know, definitely, especially if, you know, like I said, if we stick to what we're good at, you know, we know we're capable of doing, the positions we can exploit them with. You know, they've got loads of injuries as well, so that could benefit us. Obviously, you know, we've got Ross Barkley as well, who was obviously a former Chelsea player, so he can definitely, you know, help us and boost us and give us that motivation to go on and get a result tonight.
Thanks, Tyler. Tyler from the T-Boys TV, a Luton YouTuber, joining us there to preview the club's mammoth task ahead of tonight as they take on £1 billion spending Chelsea. And some other news in rugby: Kyle Steen has replaced Darcy Graham in Scotland's starting lineup to face Georgia tomorrow after the wing picked up an injury in training. Arsenal defender Kieran Tierney is expected to join La Liga side Real Sociedad on a season-long loan. Scotland's international made just 6 Premier League starts last season. That's the sport. I'll be back later.
Thank you so much, Gully. It's 6 minutes to 6. Now, who's a pretty boy then? Well, producer Dom is screaming in my ear that it's him, but we're just going to park that